Welcome to today's presentation on creating and maintaining a paperless practice with UpDocs. My name is Katie Lashy and I'll be taking you through today's presentation. The phone lines have been muted as we're recording today's event, and we'll be sending that recording around to all registrants after the event. Just to give everyone a little bit of background about UpDocs, some of you all have probably been familiar with us for a few years through partnerships with your EMR. Some of you, this might be the first time learning about us. So let me tell you kind of where we started and where we are today. We started about 8 years ago. There is a doctor named Andy Barbash who was frustrated with the communications tools available to physicians as the rest of the world moved on to easier, quick communication through email and the web. Unfortunately, HIPAA kind of kept doctors out of that party. So you're still using this old-fashioned fax machine. So Dr. Barbash was frustrated with the workflow and the paper involved as you moved into an electronic health record and you still had this paper-based process here on the side. So he came to UpDocs with an idea for secure communications, integrated electronic faxing. We work really, really well with some of our initial EMRs that we got off the ground. So we started and we got our message out there, and now we actually partner with more than 70 different EMRs, helping more than 40,000 providers. We also do patient engagement solutions, so we're able to assist practices serving as many as 60 million patients, which accounts for 18% of the population. And doing so, meaningful use kind of came around that time as well. So while we started in the integrated electronic faxing kind of platform, helping physicians and practices kind of stay viable that way, we also built this second kind of arm where we were able to securely communicate through direct secure messaging as it pertained to the meaningful use requirement. We're able to offer a patient portal to some of our partners. We've gotten into patient engagement as far as reminders and targeted messaging goes. So what UpDocs really hopes to do as a company, and what we've done for our partners, is become a single source for both patient and provider communication. As you have your EMR up and running, taking care of your day-to-day and managing that patient's care, there's still the communication with patients and communication with providers that are outside of those processes. So what we really focus on is streamlining some of those workflows. Specifically, some of the problems that we help practices solve revolve around paperwork and faxing and how time-consuming and inefficient it can be, the burden of meaningful use and other requirements, concerns over patient loyalty year over year. As the aging population continues to grow, so do the needs of chronic care patients. Help practices remain independent and financially viable, and also help practices build a trusted referral network by, again, streamlining some of those communications. As a partner, we are constantly challenging ourselves to align with our customers' primary goals. The most important goal, obviously, improving the care provided to patients. But as business owners, oftentimes, time and cost are of severe concerns. So you want to maintain a budget, you want to make sure your staff is operating as efficiently as possible, and you want to cut unnecessary costs wherever possible as well. Technology is an awesome solution for that, and there's definitely ways that different technology partners could help streamline your practice operations. But if you partner with 6 different technology companies to solve those 6 different needs, you're maximizing and minimizing windows. You have 6 different relationships with their support team. You have 6 different bills that you're paying each month. So partnering with too many technology solutions to solve those problems can absolutely send you in the other way for productivity. So what UpDocs offers is the ability to consolidate a few of those workflow needs into one partnership with us, and we kind of help level the playing field for independent physicians by solving for more than just one pain. The solutions we're going to talk about specifically today revolve around document management and digital faxing, as our theme today is going to a paperless practice with UpDocs. We make it super simple to review documents thanks to our UpDocs Universal Inbox. So as a web-based inbox, you're able to access this anywhere with an internet connection, even from your smartphone. We color code and label things very clearly. We're structured a lot like an email inbox. And all of these things are conscious decisions that we've made while kind of building this out, so that there's a very short learning curve for our users. It's very intuitive. You can hop in here and know exactly what to do. You can find anything from inter-office messages between staff, which would be secure, You can find incoming faxes, outgoing faxes, again, accessible anywhere with an internet connection, and oftentimes integrated with your EMR, which means when the fax comes in, you can send it right into the chart, which we're going to show here in a moment. Some of the ways that we differentiate our faxing solution against some of our competitors: we make it super simple for you to review, split, and combine pages. So in a paper-based world, you scan in a couple pages at a time to break them up or omit a cover sheet. In a fax server-based world or a hardware world, you are bringing them back to paper to scan them in a couple pages at a time is what we often hear. So we make it super simple for you to pick and choose a couple of pages or omit a cover sheet wherever necessary before faxing and filing. We also have a full-scale editor, which lets you mark up and sign documents. We have the ability to support both PDF and TIFF, both from a print to UpDocs perspective to make a digital copy and a drag into the inbox and send it out kind of a thing. We offer simultaneous action, so the same sending screen that you use to fax, you can also use to file, so that if you need to fax something out and you want to file a copy into the patient's chart with a note that you had faxed it out, we let you do that all in one step rather than keeping them separate and redundant. And again, we're web-based, so we're 100% HIPAA compliant, and we're also accessible without having hardware or software or IT support. So a real value there to our customers, because oftentimes you either have to choose hardware or HIPAA compliant, and for us, you can go the web-based route and remain HIPAA compliant. From a steps perspective, this is where we really kind of crush the competition in terms of how much time it takes you to manage faxes as well. So in a paper-based world, you're pulling something off of the fax machine, you are routing it around the office, you're scanning it into the computer, and then you're opening up that patient's chart and pulling it in. In a fax server-based world, the documents are making it onto your computer. Maybe they land in a folder, but you still have to hop into the chart to pull it in there. And again, you can't break it apart page by page without printing it to paper. Or if it's a web-based fax solution where it's almost like an email box, number one, those are typically not HIPAA compliant. And number two, there's a local save required to bring it onto your desktop in order to bring it into the chart. So from a sheer steps perspective, this is where we really save practices a ton of time with that integration. You would log into UpDocs, review the fax, take whichever pages you need, sign it if you need to, and then send it. And you're able to send it directly into the patient's chart, you're able to send it out as a fax, or you're able to do both at the same time. This is kind of an expanded view of the fax workflow for that inbox we had shown before. So each line item has a summary that you can kind of roll up, where it'll say this is a fax from this number, this many pages. When you hit the expand button, this is what it looks like, where you actually see the pages of your fax transmission, and this is where you're able to kind of pick and choose those pages. So you can say, so here's a 4-page fax, and I obviously don't want to grab that cover sheet when I'm sending it into the chart. So by checking the boxes on these thumbnail previews, I can pick and choose my pages, then hit send, and send it right into the patient's chart or out as a fax. So super simple. Now, if I did want to send the whole document for whatever reason, I could just hit the send item button without those checkboxes. So a couple options there, easy to do regardless. Now, what if I needed to jot down a note or sign a lab or an RX refill? That's where the editor comes into play. So if I were to click on any one of these thumbnail previews, it's going to open up in a full-scale editing view here, where I'm able to type notes, numerical values, I can freehand draw, I can erase, I can highlight, I can time and date stamp. We have checkboxes, since I know you fill out a lot of forms, and we also have kind of the aha moment for providers, a one-click signature, so that you could log in, fill out a form, sign and date it, and then send it on its way, or tag it back to the person that's going to send it on its way. So a really, really great editing function here. And each of your users is going to have the ability to store a signature. So if you have more than one doctor within the practice, you can have a couple different logins getting into the system. The other key piece when we're integrated with the EMR is our ability to send directly into the patient's chart. So we mimic the upload screen for each EMR. So if you have the ability to choose a category, if you have the ability to assign it to a provider, if you have the ability to sign off on documents within your EMR, we mimic all of those workflows so that there's nothing new for the practice to learn. they're completing the same steps within our sending screen without having to log into the chart to do it. So you would set that send button, you would type in your patient's name, you would label the document, assign it to the provider, whatever you needed to do, and then you can go ahead and send it out. So in this instance, you have the ability to title, choose a document type, either assign it to a provider or sign off if you are the provider, and then send it into the chart. Now, in this same sending screen, if I were to type in a fax number in the top right corner, I could send this as a fax outbound as well, which is really neat. And we'll show you that in just a second. Now, the other kind of redundant thing that happens when you're faxing and filing hundreds of documents per day is that you might not remember the date of the lab draw, you might not remember the patient's date of birth. We do bring those thumbnail previews over into the sending screen so that you can reference those if you need to. Just mousing over them will automatically zoom in on them. You can grab the date you need or the note you need and then file it in. So again, just trying to think about where we can save you steps and clicks and also help keep you sane when you are doing these types of redundant filing workflows. I did mention that you're able to type in a patient's name if you wanted to complete 2 actions at once, which is a really great feature of the sending screen. You can also send to 2 different fax numbers if you need to. If every time you send a fax almost, you're sending it to 2 specific people, you can create a fax group and just choose that fax group as you're sending out. But what's really great about our outbound faxing as well is that when you send this out, you can pick and choose a cover sheet, which is completely customizable with your practice information. You can title it, you can add a note. If you find that you're typing the same note over and over again, you can create a template for it. So again, just trying to save you steps and clicks along the way. And here's an example of an outgoing fax cover sheet where we would have put a subject line. We would have chosen from our library of cover sheets, which by the way can support different departments, different cover sheet purposes, different locations, and then the template. So if I find myself typing the same message over and over again, I can just choose from there. The other great thing about our outbound faxing, so a couple different things actually. We do have a virtual printer driver, so you could click print and choose UpDocs anywhere on your computer, and that will pull up the ability to turn that into a digital document for UpDocs to fax out. So if you're inside of your billing system and you need to fax something out, if you're inside of the EMR and you need something to fax out, you can click print and bring it into UpDocs regardless, and then choose to send out from here. If you grab something from the chart and then you also have this form that needs to go with it, you can save blank copies of forms on your desktop and just drag them into UpDocs and then send it all out together. So some really great workflows to support outbound faxing. The other great feature about our outbound faxing is our transparency when it comes to fax failures in your audit trail. So if a fax fails for whatever reason, let's say they're on a paper fax system and they're throwing up busy signals or their hardware is offline, we will proactively notify you. So we try 4 times every 2 minutes, I believe, to send that fax out the door. And if it does hit a busy signal or a fax machine that's offline, we'll put a fax failed notification right at the top of your inbox that tells you when it failed, why it failed, and who you sent it to and what the fax was, which makes it super simple for you to hit send item and just retry a little bit later if you need to let them know that their fax machine's offline for some reason. You can also search the sent box at any moment, and that'll give you a running tally of all sent files. So this will be chart imports, it will be outgoing faxes, whether they were successful or failed, and all of these different boxes along the left side, just like Gmail, are searchable. So you can go to the search window in the top right corner of your UpDocs inbox and search by the name of the practice that you sent it to, or the fax number you sent it to, or the patient you filed for. And you're able to retrieve all of the documents that you've managed within UpDocs inside of the sending screen, so that that pesky practice that you exchange faxes with that asks you to resend things 3 days later, you can recall it, but you can find the fax that you had sent in your sent box and really easily send it again. So that's kind of a small, the little things are the big things, and that's a big painful workflow for practices who have to do that redundant work when someone asks them to resend something. So that's kind of a workflow perspective on how it's helping practices make their days a little bit easier. From a financial perspective, in case we have any of the business owners on today's call. When we ask practices how much they fax, they almost universally tell us a lot, and we kind of chuckle a little bit because it's a universal independent practice answer to that question. But what they don't think about is the cost associated with the paper process that they might be using to fax a lot. If you consider $80 for a toner cartridge, $20 to $30 each month for your fax line, $50 for a case of paper, and then the hours that it takes for your staff to manage those faxes in a paper-based world, it really is a cost-intensive process in addition to a painful process from a workflow perspective for your practice. So what UpDocs is able to do by going digital is save your practice from a hard costs perspective as much as $155 in supplies, and from a time perspective, 55 staff hours for each 5,000 pages that you fax. So if you think about 5,000 pages, it would probably take an independent provider 2 to 3 months to fax that much. So we're going to save you $150 for each of those 5,000 pages and 55 hours for each of those 5,000 pages that you go through on a monthly basis. From a roll-up perspective, annually, going digital could save your practice then as much as $7,000, in addition to having more a happier workflow at the practice, dealing with the technology that works really well with your EMR rather than scanning and paper faxing out. We do offer all new customers a free trial period. As I mentioned, being web-based, there's no hardware, so you don't need to order supplies, get them into the office, have someone spend a ton of time setting it up. You literally get started with UpDocs. We take you through free training. You have a free trial period. We have no contract, so after that trial period, you're a month-to-month customer, which is great for the customer because we're on the hook to keep you happy, make sure you're continuing to see value in our partnership and that we're helping you operate more efficiently and saving you costs along the way. If you did want to speak with someone, our sales development reps will be following up after the webinar to see if there are any follow-up questions. You're also welcome to contact us directly as well if you'd like. Our number and our email address are down there too. And it is a really, really great time to get started. We do have a special promotion for the month of October. The promo code is kickoff, and what it gets you is 40% off of the base fee for your first 2 months as a customer. So certainly a great time to get started if you were looking to find out if UpDocs would be a fit for your practice.